Decision Diaries.
Welcome to Decision Diaries. Today on Decision Diaries, we are going to talk about being a professional convention event planner. So, what do I mean when I say professional convention event planner? There are events, there are parties, there are special events, there's corporate events, but a mega event that I'm sure some professional people have been out there too is when you go to one of your profession and there's breakout sessions and there's award ceremonies and there's speakers and there's educational tracks and there's swag and there's post events, pre events, and you're wondering, okay, you go to it with your little badge, and you go to those sessions. It all seems like magic, but it's not. There is a person behind the scenes who is making all of that magic happen, and it doesn't happen overnight. And I happen to have one of them with me today, my good friend from college, Judy Nichols, who is a professional convention event planner. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So, Judy, I mean, I know you didn't just wake up as a child and think to yourself, you know what I want to do when I grow up? I want to plan a professional event for a civil engineering society, and do that when for many years when I get older. So I know that didn't happen overnight. So how did it kind of progress in your career that you ended up here?
It's really an interesting story. I was thinking back, like in high school when you're a senior and they say, what is it that you're going to do? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? I wanted to be an attorney. And then I got to thinking, I'm like, I guess I wasn't really that smart because I never really thought about, I need to take debate. I need to do this, that, or the other thing. Find myself in college at UF where you and I met, and I'm in the public relations department. And I remember Dr. Detweiler was like, I guess at the time I was like political science or something. I was all over the place. It's like, you don't want to be sitting in some cubicle in DC. And I was thinking, well, maybe I did, but whatever. And now I'm opened up to all these possibilities for what PR could be. Didn't really enjoy it too much though. Remember that reporting class we had to take, and one fact error in the lab and then you failed and stuff like that. So I just I got through the whole 4-year program and found myself in like some bottom level PR job for a nonprofit. And it wasn't really the thing that I wanted to do, writing press releases and things like that. I was actually at a temp job working at a radio station here locally in West Palm Beach. And I got a phone call. It was kind of after hours. It was like 6, 7 o'clock. I don't even know why I was there that late. And it was this woman calling who, she had a conversation. She ran an organization for business women who needed to learn to play golf so that they could network with other people out on the golf course, since that's where all the decisions were made. So get these women learning to play golf, and then, they'll rise in their careers and all of that other stuff. And it sounded really interesting. And I'm like, what do you call that job? What is it? And she's like, it's association management. I'd never heard of it before, but okay, right? And guess what? There's no college degree for that. There's nothing that could really, that you could go to a college and learn how to do these things. And it kind of helped having the PR background because, you've got to be organized. You've got to be able to communicate. Good Lord, I can't communicate today. But stumbling words is so hard. So, I just started doing things. And for that particular job that I had, it was creating these local branches all over the country of executive women who wanted to learn how to play golf. So working with them and then working with golf courses to set up all these different chapters and how they could work together. And then that was really it for me. I didn't have to plan local events or anything like that. And I started getting up into different jobs in association management. And I was a membership director for a local builders association. And that kind of taught me a whole little bit more about membership recruiting and benefits and the importance of that, and then working with the board. And many years later, I had this opportunity to become the executive director of an association, which for me was like the pinnacle of my career. Like, how much higher are you going to go than that. That's the
Yeah.
top. And so I have been with this group for, it's 13 years now. And
Wow. It's been
I
13.
know, I think the
Yeah.
only other longest commitment I have has been in my marriage. But
Yeah, that's what I say. I say, yeah, my marriage and my children because I can't quit them.
right, right. They're not going anywhere. They're not going back in. So, anyways, this was, I hate to say it, it at the time it seemed to be in a bit of a shambles because they were in between people. The person who had been the executive director, they ceased services with that person, and then they found me. And the odd thing for me was that I had been out of work for a while, so I had been sending out a ton of resumes. So when I finally got a bite, it was kind of like, who is this again? Like, let me go back and dig through, and and so here it is, and now it's 13 years later. Well, for this particular group, I oversee the entire state of Florida for civil engineers, and they have a license that they have to maintain. And every 2 years, they've got to have enough like CEUs, we call them PDHs, professional development hours, to renew their license. And it's networking, and it's kind of all of the other things that I'd been doing for so long. So I have been doing an annual event for them. That's only one facet of my job, but the annual conference is something that I do annually in July, and I get to work with a company to help pick the venue, and then whatever's going to take place from there. Let's see, last year I think I had over 90 different presentations, and that's not necessarily 90 speakers. Some people had 2 or 3 people presenting with them. And so now I'm managing not just the sessions, but I'm managing also these speakers who may or may not be aware that they're one of 90. So it's
Right.
like, it's
Right.
a lot of like, what about me? Take care of me. And what about my session and my hotel and this, that, and the other thing. So, on the conference planning part, you've got that part. I'm planning the program. And then I've got to get my sponsors. And then I have exhibitors there too. And then after I've kind of built all of that, now I've got to get people there to pay for all of these other things that's going on. So
Well, I've been fortunate enough to be one of your volunteers, and you were sweet enough to hire my husband to be your professional photographer, and I don't know if he's done all 13
yes, he
years, but I
has.
wanna say yeah, I wanna say I thought so, yeah, right? So I get to see firsthand that you and I have the exact same degree from University of Florida, and I cannot do what you do.
Well,
So I cannot do what you do. I mean, we need to, talk about, you just mentioned a second ago, there are different populations of people that you need to work with within this bigger picture. Big picture being you're putting on a conference, bigger picture, you're in charge of the association. But just talking about the conference management itself, um, you have speakers and programs and sessions, and you have exhibitors, and then you have the attendees,
oh, let
and
me throw
then
in
you
2 other
have
things. We
yeah, and
have,
then you have other populations of vendors, yeah, and
yeah,
volunteers. You forget volunteers. I try to be a good soldier when I'm there. I try not to be a high maintenance volunteer, but volunteers are volatile in the sense that sometimes they sign up and they don't show up, and I always try to be a very good volunteer for you because, volunteer management is a skill within itself, and if anybody is out there and you volunteer for something, please show up. I've had volunteers not show up, and it's really hard, when you think you have 10 and then you only end up with 2.
right, right. Well, a couple of things that I've learned over these years, it's still all up in my head. I'm like the one running it. So it's like I'm the one working on it and thinking about it. So sometimes my communication with the people that I need there is not always there because I know I've thought about it and therefore I must have said it, right? But
Right.
so, I have run into that a couple times, but what I've learned too is I've got somebody that helps me run the back end that I could not have done it without her for all these years. And I'm not really sure what's going to happen moving forward because she just took and passed her PE exam. So she is like officially a civil engineer. So she is
Oh,
one who is going to be more attending the conferences moving forward unless I can talk her and her employer into continuing to help me out. But, it takes an incredible amount of organization, and it's like compartmentalizing everything. Like, okay, what do I have to deal with the hotel about? I need to work with them on the meeting space and the rooms and the location and the food and different things. What time is stuff going to be there? And are we having breaks and different things like that? And then there's working with their AV department. And what do I need for all of those things that I just mentioned? Do they
Well, I
need?
remember last year was interesting when a lot of people don't know this, and maybe people take this for granted that when you're at one of these conferences, you may see that there's this how do we call it? Control room,
Plethora.
right? There's a control room somewhere, and you're seeing somebody kind of go in and out of this control room. Well, I think it was last year that the hotel moved your control room. And and I mean, you talk about a disturbance of you're in the center of this, and the next thing you know, we're piling on these carts to move your
Oh,
control room
yeah, oh,
to
yeah.
a different space. Oh, I mean, that's just one of many stories
How
where
about how about when the AC went out in one of the rooms and all of a sudden it's a jam-packed room and it's sweltering there and they're coming
oh,
after me? Like I can solve that. Well, I mean I have to solve it. I have to go find the hotel person and stuff like that. But talk about something so out of your control. Well, that thing that you were talking about, they had a very large group that was breaking down their conference just as I was coming in. So I think I was maybe working with a newer person on the hotel side that didn't really think that I needed a day ahead of the conference starting to like get stuff put together and all of that. They had me moving into that room I think the night before it actually started. So yeah, we were in there loading up carts and remember stuffing bags and just everything and just let's put that all on a cart, and they literally just rolled it down to the other side of that event space where we had. It was, that was the first time that happened for me, but at least it got
oh,
taken care of, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, and then, we had all of our snacks and different thing. And, I of course it you you have to ebb and flow with what's being thrown at you. And so on the day, when I'm there, you're definitely in the throes of it. But if you back up to where you really begin, you really kind of start a year and ahead. And there are some perks. You do get one of the nicest suites of any hotel. I mean,
Sometimes,
sometimes
some
yes, sometimes no.
okay, maybe most times yes, and a few times I'm like, yeah, and I really appreciate it. And that's something that the hotel does for me. They upgrade it. For example, we were at a property, we were at a Marriott property last year and the year before that has a Ritz-Carlton connected to it. And so, generally I want to be close to where the event is, just in the event that, I got to run upstairs because something happened, like the year that I got sick and I had to go back and change and, whatever. But this time I was like, you know what? It's a Ritz Carlton. I've never stayed at one before. This could be my only opportunity. So I'll just book myself over there. How was I to know they were going to give me a corner suite that was bigger than my house? I mean, it was great. And
Oh,
and the best part about it was that it was kind of a walk to get over there. So it wasn't like in the middle of an activity, people were just going to show up at my room, because the last thing I wanted to was for people to know where I was. Not my friends and that, although I don't even think that you even came over to see what it was. But I mean, it was pretty cool. But think about it, for what it is that I'm doing, I'm like living and breathing that event. So that type of room was kind of wasted on me unless I was going to take the day after the conference ended and hang out, which I did for the first time in 13 years. And it was nice. I got to, go to a restaurant and eat at a decent hour. And, it wasn't something I'm trying to, eat on the run or something like that. So, I mean, that is a nice perk.
yeah, it isn't. Well, and what about the food tasting? Do you enjoy the food tasting? I mean, I know it's you're 13 years in, but when you got that first opportunity and you had to make, I don't think you had a partner when you really kind of first kicked off, and you had to do it all by yourself. Was that kind of a fun, almost like creating your wedding, like kind of food tasting experience?
It was. In fact, for the first couple years that I was doing this, I was just really looking at a spreadsheet that had been given to me by somebody that had already vetted it. They had already sent out the RFIs to get quotes and potential locations that matched my dates and that. And I would just make the decision looking at a spreadsheet. I'd go online, I'd look at the websites, something like that. And they would always ask me if I wanted to site visit. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Like, no, we had something going on. My son was playing baseball or something like that. Didn't make the time. So finally, I was talking to one of those people that had helped me, and they're like, "Just go see it. They're going to put you up for the night. They're going to comp your parking, and I think you really just need to go see the space." So I went, and oh my God, pull up, like I'm some VIP. I meet and I go do the thing. The best one, I did finally start inviting some people to go with me, and at the time, this person was president of our organization, but he liked to, wine and dine and stuff like that. So I invited him to go with me, and the event was going to be in Orlando, and we looked at like 5 different properties up there.
Right. Orlando's overwhelming.
Oh, it's so overwhelming. I hate working in Orlando though. We go to this one property, and the whole senior management team is waiting in the lobby on our arrival. And it's the senior VP of this, that, and the other thing, along with the salesperson that I'm going to be working with, and then more than likely the convention services manager, who's going to be my day-to-day during the event and stuff like that. They're showing us the space. So they leave, and now it's just us and maybe 2 other people. They're taking us on a tour. And we're walking to this one area, and they have down on the floor stars with our name on it.
Oh,
and the
wow.
name of the event, like walking into this area, that I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then it's lunch. So they take us to the chef's table, which is located in the kitchen. So we walk through this one restaurant into the back, and it's this really cool, almost like a private dining room kind of thing. And the place setting was enormous. We had multiple knives and forks and multiple glasses. We had wine glasses. There was a champagne glass etched with my logo on it. And before each course, because there were like 5 courses, the student intern and the chef overseeing that person came in to explain the concept between that meal.
Nice.
So we have like these 4 or 5 different things, and how nice it is when you see like your creme brulee has the topping of your logo, different things like that. Well, that's like really cool, and we did end up going there. Not a good place in my opinion, but nonetheless, you get to, it's seeing that kind of thing. It's not so much a food tasting for me anymore, because, for at least for my big event, we're going to have a plated lunch just one day. And then the rest of the things are going to be like a cocktail reception kind of thing, hors d'oeuvres and that. So, how many different times do you have to taste chicken?
Right.
So it's just going to be a variation of like what the sauce is. And, it was really funny because picking the menu is kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
I would have a little fun with it. Or if I finally would involve somebody and let them pick the menu. I mean, do I care what the menu is? No. My thing had always been, I'm not a big fan of key lime pie. So all of the events, I would always it would be like a chocolate something or whatever. So this one conference chair had said to me, how can we never have key lime pie? Especially that particular event we're having in Miami, blah, blah, blah. I don't like key lime pie. He looked at me like I was crazy or whatever. So now that's been like a running joke. So it's like someone will say, I'm going to plan the event with you, and we're having key lime pie. So prepare yourself. Not that I even get to eat at those events, but it's just.
Well, I do remember last year, I guess you delegated some of the hors d'oeuvres, and boy, he was really proud of himself.
He really was.
He
He
really was, and as each hors d'oeuvre came out, he would be like, I picked that one, and I picked that one because, not everybody likes this." And I was like, "That's really super thoughtful." And I do like when, you do include a lot of people, and,
right.
over the years, you're delegating here and there, as, and certain things I can always tell by every conference that certain things you're passionate about that one year. And let's talk about picking out some swag. you had you've had some incredible swag. I know that there are probably people that and there's trends with swag, right?
Yeah.
Now right now it's all about the Stanley. What this is a
Oh my
Stanley.
gosh.
It's
Yeah.
all about the Stanley. Although I do feel like you kind of had Stanley last year, but
Well, funny
everybody's all
story
into this.
about that. I do work with somebody, she's the tchotchke girl, and
Oh,
she's the one that I'll order my stuff from. So maybe it's the lanyards, custom lanyards, or the awards or something like that. And she goes to the trade shows because that's what her profession is and all of that. And I remember it was like 2 years ago, she says to me, the hottest thing coming up is this Stanley Cup, and it's better than a Yeti. And you know what they're like this big 40-ounce ones or whatever they are. And I was like, yeah, no, no. I mean, I think what you might be referring to is my gag gift, and I don't know why, but I have a thing for cups, and I would custom make these Yetis or something to that effect with something stupid or silly that might have happened that year. And, I remember the best one that we had, I had the phrase "hi diddly ho neighbor" on it.
yes.
And
I have that one.
it was just, it's kind of been funny to me because it's just like, do I remember who I gave them out to? No, not really, but there was only like 12 of them. But it was like to see people now, I'll have Teams calls or whatever, and here's this person holding the cup, and and it makes me giggle and stuff like that. So we just try to have like a little bit of fun with it.
Well, you have good, also good bags and great graphic artwork. I think, a lot of some of the things that we were taught, and in our college education, that we have to credit some things back to University of Florida. It's interesting that, I can't have a party where things don't kind of match, like napkins and plates, and things have to kind of coordinate. And even sometimes, the cake has to have like an incorporation of some color that came from the plate. And I don't think a lot of people appreciate the level of detail of kind of coordinating these different things. And you're coordinating these things inside of a different space. Every year, it's kind of a different space. I mean, sometimes you've returned back to the same people. I guess it kind of got messed up with 2020, but they're going to have slightly different shades of napkins. I know they probably all have standards, but you go into it every year. It's not like you walk in with your posters from last year and you just put up the same posters. Every year it is fresh, and every year you have to keep it fresh, and it has to be a new fresh theme. And I mean, frankly, we're talking about civil engineering. so
I
so
know.
you got to get really creative. I think last year was one of the prettiest years. I
Oh my
really
gosh, it was
love
outstanding.
the
So
color of that. You want to talk about that theme for a second, or how you came to that theme?
it was really kind of interesting. So just a little bit of background. The person that does all of our marketing, all of that graphic design stuff, when I met him, he was I think a senior in college at FSU, and he in civil engineering, and he just had a flair and just tremendous. I mean, he creates all of this stuff for us. And since he's taken that on, the graphics have just been astounding. Could I attribute that to more people attending the events? I mean, do you attend an event because the flyer looks pretty? I might think about it a little more, because it'll stick in my head. But he's
Yeah.
just been phenomenal with that. And stuff's not cheap, I'll tell you that too, because, going back to what you're saying, for what this group is, do the signs matter? Do the colors matter? Well, I got talked into having like these big ass signs, like 6, 7 feet tall signs, and they were a hit. People were using them as selfie backdrops. And then they started posting stuff on social media. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Now, most of that came from like our college students who were attending, but I mean, that was great. This, or I should say last year, I remember it was green. What was the theme? I hate themes.
It was kind of like
The
tropical,
lakes.
the
Do you know
lake.
he did that all through AI?
Well, yeah, yeah. Which, my husband being a creative, I'll just have to say he was a little like, oh no. But I have since I there are parts of AI I can embrace, and my son's girlfriend works in graphics, and she was like, it's an ideation. You put in something and you don't take exactly what spits out. You kind of carve it and massage it. So just imagine if you got a piece of marble rather than getting a huge piece of marble. I mean, if it was somewhat in the form of a body that you start with and then you carve from there, I mean, why wouldn't you do it, right? So that's kind of and I have no idea what he plugged in. I know we attempted to do a creative piece of artwork, and we typed in our dog, our German short-haired pointer dog playing poker, and AI spit out some really weird German short-haired pointers.
Uh-huh.
So he had to finesse it. He had to finesse it for sure. And they were great, and they brought the lakes to life, and they also brought the convention from, engineering to, what is the purpose of engineering and at a bigger level. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing professional conferences do is they inspire you. They almost inspire you. That's why they bring in those college students too. And I've been in some of those sessions with the college students, which are some of the best sessions because the energy level is just higher. And so if you've been in a profession for a while and you haven't gone to one of your profession's conference, maybe you should, because then you become re-energized. And it seemed like the energy level was just up with both the graphics work, but we haven't even, and the great swag and the great food. But then there are events, after hours activities, like a fun activity that you do, and you switch cities. So, some people do go to professional conferences. I feel like all of mine were in Las Vegas, right? Anytime I went to a conference, it was in Las Vegas. And okay, I like Las Vegas, but after a while, a change of venue, a change of a city would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
because I mean, I know Las Vegas, right? And various hotels, yeah, they're different, but you get to, change locations all around Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And then that also kind of, some people, um, instead of just going to the conference during the daytime, they're there, they're captured, they get to bond. And then you create a another bonding experience. So
Yeah.
talk about
It's all
some of
about
these
the
fun
networking.
activities. You've done some outings. I think there was some candy making at one point. Did you do candy making when you came to Jacksonville? Maybe you did. You've done some tastings, or
Well,
what else?
like one thing, like on an educational component that we do, we'll do like a technical tour.
Mhm.
So I think at least when we were in Orlando, we visited the new Brightline facility that was there. Another time there was a Sun Tracks, which is built by the Florida Department of Transportation, and they test roadways, so it's like a big speedway kind of thing. So we've done things like that. After hours, we plan a younger member social. So I have a group of people. Technically, it's supposed to be 35 and younger, but it's a pub crawl, and who's not going to want to go on that? So when you go
Right.
to
I might go
Orlando,
on that
that's
one.
like there have been some good ones. Most times, though, I think I've only been on one because I kind of feel like I've got to stay on property in case something else happens, or you never know. But we have that. I do. There's always been a hospitality suite that I'm always blessed that one of our members will, stock it, not necessarily staff it, but it's fun. Um, until you take a drink from the cup and suddenly you've got COVID, but that's a whole different story. But the
Yeah, there
cafe
was a
was,
lot of drinks from from the cup, and that kind of leads me to, tradition. So if someone is thinking about, all the glamour that comes with being courted by a convention, senior management of a convention center and all of that. The other thing I think you have to think about is building year after year traditions. And so you guys have built some traditions of, how you have sort of at the end of the conference, you have sort of a post celebration. You have I've seen some fat heads of I
Oh
guess
my
those are
gosh.
called fat heads of,
Yeah.
and everybody in good in with good humor, making fun of different people who are in executive power. Your executive power changes all the time. So the person coming in, the person going out. I think you've established a lot of traditions, and so and I'm big on traditions, but I think anyone going into this profession needs to build on that. That keeps people coming back, I think, to your conference, and that's why it increases. It seems like you got your largest turnout.
It's
Um,
the attendance has been growing every year since COVID, which is great. Makes me think now for this event I'll have in July. I signed a contract for that 3 years ago, and my numbers have gotten much bigger since then. Not tripled, but I remember walking over doing a site visit, and I'm looking at a room going, "Oh, we're not going to fit." This is going to be an interesting one this summer. But I digress. I mean, other traditions that we've had. I mean, I really just kind of always believe that you have to have fun with what you're doing, because if you're
yeah.
enjoying what you're doing, then it's not really going to be a job. You're going to put more into it. You're going to get more out of it. So, one thing that I did, we've had some really great presidents who have been of our association, and just how do you follow that up with something? Well, we do the traditional passing of the hammer kind of thing, the gavel. And one year I got a big Thor hammer, because it's like, oh, it's a big job. Can I really step into your shoes and do it? And, we bring that out now. And last year, or maybe,
Oh,
no, it
with
was,
the jean jacket. Talk about the jean jacket.
well, we always give a gag gift to the president, the outgoing president. And our president last year always called himself a good old country boy. And we got him a denim tuxedo. And that, I mean, for me, that's plenty of that kind of stuff. That's the fun part. You're pulling your hair out with trying to get everything else done. And now I've got to go find a denim tuxedo. What am I going to, I've got great ideas for next year's president. I already
Oh,
know what I'm
good. I
getting.
can't
So it's
wait.
like, yeah, but it's just like silly stuff. We had a ridiculous, oversized foam hat, like they had on one of the Saturday Night Live skits with Alex Trebek and Jeopardy, and the guy Norm Donaldson, who was Burt Reynolds, had this big hat and stuff. And that was, I mean, I'm embarrassed to say almost, but it's kind of funny. One of the pieces of that conference is that we award scholarships to college students. So one particular person who had applied had a very, very interesting name. And it was kind of like, that's the one. Do I remember all the names? No, but I remember that one. And I was talking to someone like, oh, I wonder how this person's going to do. And her reply was Turd Ferguson. That's a funny name. And I didn't know what it was. So now I'm looking it up on YouTube, and it's like what I said. It's this Jeopardy sketch with Will Ferrell and Norm Donaldson. And now I'm going down the whole rabbit hole watching these stupid little clips of these, the show and that. And so I had to have that cowboy hat, and it was like the best $30 I spent.
Oh,
So
yeah.
now
Yeah.
I have in a bag here in the corner of the office. I've got the Thor hammer. I've got the big old cowboy hat, and that's that. And I don't know what this year's outgoing gift's going to be.
Yeah,
Trying to
I
keep
love
everything
that.
generic.
I
Don't know
love
who's
that. I
listening.
love that. So sense of humor, and sense of humor, you've got it, especially when the heat is really on.
Oh, yeah,
I
it's a
think
different
I think
side.
a level of, like, sarcasm and just and being able to, be prepared to make lots of decisions on the fly, lots of changes, lots of, good is good enough. And then, you have to just kind of laugh it, let that water roll off your back. And so if you're somebody who is a complete control freak,
You can't be.
this may not be for you. And if you're somebody who can't laugh about, things going wrong here or there, or just, have a close person nearby that you can vent to, that you trust in the midst of, whatever emotion that you're feeling. I don't know how you do it. I mean, because events, even my birthday events, really do kind of stress me out. I always think in the back of my mind, nobody's going to show up. And that was pretty clear by I want to call it my COVID birthday. I think nobody knew COVID was out there. And yet, we went out for my 50th birthday to a karaoke place, and I picked, you know, a fairly what I thought was gonna be a decent sized room, and then I was kind of shocked so many people arrived.
We were packed in
And
there like sardines.
yeah, have you ever done that? I mean, how do you anticipate to me, it's like a unique skill that wasn't taught to you by University of Florida. How do you predict numbers?
It's kind of hard. I mean, I like to just base it on what I had last year. And at least for the engineers, they have to renew every 2 years. So I kind of feel like every 2 years, I'm going to have more people. But it's gotten to the point now, I think, that the people who attend my events know that they're going to have a good time. They're going to have great networking. They're going to have good food. They're going to get their stuff in. And it's going to be a nice couple days away from the office and all of that. With the place that I'm going to this summer, the rooms are smaller. And at least for the way that I've always had my events, you don't have to pre-register for anything. So, because obviously that seems to me obvious how you're going to know how many people you're going to have. I have no idea what the hot topic's going to be at my conference every year. I remember we had one in Orlando many years ago, and they were like packed in the room, like standing room, only 3 rings of people in addition to what we had it set for. And it's like, well, how did you know that was going to be a hot topic? And then maybe the next year you think, oh, okay, this is going to be it. And then there's like 5 people in there. But like the thing that I'm thinking of this year that's giving me a lot of anxiety is these rooms are not going to fit what I need them to fit. And maybe I do a pre-registration, but my greatest fear with that was always like, so now I've put out a call for abstracts to get the presentations in, and then we're going to review them, and then I'm going to build my program from that. So what if I do a pre-registration, and after going through this big old process, what if nobody signs up to go to that session? What do I do? Do I have to like cancel that? Do I have to tell the speaker that? I mean, so it's really kind of eating me up right now because I don't want to be at that point, because I mean, I would think standing room only, people are going to see that maybe there's a line out the door, and, are you one of those people? I got to go see what that's about. I got to, maybe that's the one that I need to be at, kind of thing, even though it doesn't apply. But so I don't know. I mean, I just, did I pick the right resort? That's always a good question. There was one in Miami that I did not, well, literally I didn't pick it. Somebody else did, and I had to move forward with it, but it was awful. I mean, the people, I remember the hotel staff, first of all, where the exhibitors were set up was in this beautiful hallway kind of that had floor to ceiling windows, but the sun coming into Miami, it was like, holy cow. It was like, you're getting a sunburn. So you have that going on. Then we had food put out and coffee, and the hotel decided to post one of their staff people there to decide who could and who couldn't partake. So all of the people who were my exhibitors were being pushed away by this hotel staff person, not allowed to eat, kind of thing.
That's weird.
So it's, so that's just like a really odd thing. Well, who told you to do that? That was, so you have stuff like that. But, if I'm in Orlando, if it's like a well-known chain kind of place, like a Marriott or a Hilton, I'm pretty sure people are going to go there. But, for where I am now in the West Coast of Florida, it's actually pretty cool. The more times I visit it, the more I'm really digging the the slower paced lifestyle over there. Like I live in West Palm Beach. There's a lot of people. I'm lucky that I can work out of my house, and I try not to leave my house a lot of the times and go on 95 and stuff like that. And it is a much different feel over here than it is on the West Coast. But now I go, it's like when I say where it's going to be, I have to kind of put in there, oh, it's just a little south of Fort Myers, or,
Right, right.
so it's kind of like, now I've got that in my head. You had mentioned, what if nobody comes? What if nobody comes?
Well, I didn't mean to put that in your
No,
head.
no,
I just
no,
know,
no, no,
I
no.
just
It's
know
something
that,
that
that rules me out of this profession. I mean, I mean, it just, it immediately disqualifies me from, even thinking that I could do it. Sometimes when I sort of shadow you during the conference. I try to be as helpful to you as possible. If that's stacking things, if that's, shooing somebody, or if that's, telling people that you need a moment, or if it's bringing you a drink, whatever it is, I try to be that person. And every time I try to put myself in your shoes at that moment, and I think to myself, nope, not
well,
for me,
at,
not for me.
at least for what I do, because I'm a one person show,
Right.
and I'm the one that's dealing with all of the speakers, the potential speakers, the attendees, and the hotel. So it's kind of like I'm the name that they know. So when they have a question, they're the ones coming to look for me. I try to go and hide. But or look for an office that's not, and I say that lovingly, of course.
Right,
I
right.
love I love I love my job, for one. I love that they're seeking me out for something. I really appreciate more when it's for a nice thing rather than for a complaint or something like that. But I'm the name that they know, so I have to live with that. So I have a great group of people who help insulate me and help make the things work in the background, which I couldn't do it without them, yourself included.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. I enjoy going every year. Well, I hope we kind of gave everybody a feel of what is needed. So let's get like a little punch list here. Okay, so you don't necessarily need a public relations degree, but I would say it helped,
I think it helped. I
right?
mean, I think a really good common sense, the ability to act on your feet, like you said before. It's not going to go perfectly. And I remember somebody else had told me there's going to be 10 things that go wrong, without a doubt. It could be, anything. And once you get past that 10, then you're free and clear. I don't know if there's that scientific truth or not, but it's kind of, to at least get you thinking, like, stuff's going to happen, and just freaking roll with it. So, I don't want to plan an outside event just because for when I have my events, it's in July, and July is going to be a weather issue. I was in Orlando at one event, and we had torrential rains coming to the point where we were set up inside, there was so much water flowing underneath the doors, that it was almost a disaster. You're like having to put almost sandbags there, but stuff's going to happen, and you just got to figure it out. And it's like, you might not laugh about it now, but there's going to come a point in time where it's going to be ridiculous. And I found that, and I'm like a very in the moment person. Like I'm ranting and raving to my group of people if I can at least get away. I mean, I'm not kicking the wall or anything, but at some point when I retell the story, I'm gonna really hit on the ridiculousness of this stuff, because that's what it is after a while. You're gonna plan, you're gonna work hard, and how it's gonna be. And there's just gonna be other people who are going to change that for you sometimes, or events or something like that. You just have to roll with it.
Right, right. And that's where the second piece is that you have to have a good sense of humor. You already
You really
mentioned you
do.
have to surround yourself with some helpers, some trustworthy people. You also, delegate from time to time. You find a good person that's reliable to delegate something to. You never have to worry about photography. We don't go any. We plan our vacations around your convention so that my husband's always there. You'll never hear him say, "Oh no, I don't want to do Judy's event this year." So you can knock that one off your list. But
But the cool thing about it is because I've been working with him for so long, I just have to tell him the rooms that we're going to be in. I don't even have to, because he's been through it before. And if there's something in particular and it's like, here's what it is, no problem, and then I mean, I love working with people like that. Then they know their stuff, they know the layout, and I can trust them.
well, what's interesting is my younger son is studying hospitality, right?
Really? I did not know
And
that.
and I don't know, if he's ultimately going to, end up working at a hotel, or, if he's thinking
Does
he's
he want to
probably not
intern this summer?
yeah, maybe. Yeah, he's applying to Marriott and Hilton right now, and he, is looking like in their recreation management area or something like that. And his college courses are so much fun. Let's say, he's got like wine tasting and
Oh my gosh. Where where's
lodge
he
tours.
going? Remind me where he goes.
He's in Orlando. He's at Valencia and UCF, and
Okay, because
so
I knew that UCF had a hospitality program and
yeah,
stuff. But
yeah.
listen, I'm happy to take on some free labor this summer if you want some hands-on experience. Think about
Oh, I'll send him your way. So I feel like if you had to major in something, majoring in hospitality and either being the association person, or being the senior management that etches the glass, puts everything
it.
there to present to somebody that their event should be at this particular hotel. I mean,
Hmm.
there's two sides of that profession. And so I could see, if you ever retired from this part of your profession, you could always go to the Marriott and be like, hey, let me give you the perception. Let me tell you
Yeah,
where and why I chose you, and where I felt like, there should be maybe some improvements or some different things that you could do. You could always be a consultant down the road.
you're not wrong.
Any Yeah, anything else? I don't know if I've covered all of it. I know that, as you mentioned before, that you build some long-lasting relationships, and then there's this fury of activity, and then there's this huge amount of stress, and then there's this after celebration, and as you mentioned, the stories just get funnier about the things that went wrong, and you could just look back and laugh, almost like, child rearing.
Yeah, yeah, I'd have
Like
to
raising
agree
your
with that.
children.
Yeah, I'd have to agree
Yeah.
with that. I don't think hospitality was around as an option for us when we were going through college. I
Well,
think
I
it's
don't even
just
think
something
they
that
have that
evolved.
as an option at University of Florida. I told my son, I said, I mean, Orlando is a mecca of conventions. I'll be heading down there in a week or so, and I'm actually going to Podfest. I guess I should say that on my podcast. As I'm going to Podfest for the very first time, and that Podfest is in Orlando, so I'll be going to that conference, sitting in those sessions, being that person, and I'm gonna look for a person like Judy. And you know what I'm not gonna do? And I just want to put this out to everybody as a challenge. If you're at a convention, read the FAQs, read the signage. Do not look for the head of the whole convention like Judy to ask those questions, because
Or at least lead in with a compliment before you hit them with a
oh,
complaint.
yes, it's always good to lead in with a compliment and be like, "Look, hey, you're wonderful, and I don't read signs, so can you point me to can you point me to conference room A or room B?" And then, I'm gonna say one of the things not to say. One of the things not to say is, maybe next year you could
Yeah.
have you ever thought of doing this, or have you ever thought of doing that? Just know that the person who put this together has thought of a lot of things. and, you stay with your profession and let that profession be with their profession. so,
Yeah.
so,
We're all professionals in our own
um,
respective
there's
careers.
comment cards for that. but usually during the event is probably not a good time. And there could be a loss of life if you approach it the wrong way. You really are walking into a hornet's nest. You've handled it gracefully. I've been there when someone has walked up and kind of wanted to pull you over to the side just to tell you all their inner thoughts. And I know you don't clearly have time for it. And as your volunteer, I've tried to, if I see someone heading your way like that, I've tried to kind of, position them someplace else. But I think if anyone's listening to this and is thinking, I go to a lot of conferences, just know, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. You may not make it out alive. So we're gonna wrap up. I'm gonna thank you again for being my guest on such short notice. But
Loved it. Thank you
just
for
so you
asking.
know, I have so much admiration for what you do, and then how you got there in your profession. I know we're gonna be doing this for many, many, many years to come. And I will never in a million years do this profession. so and so everybody should be very thankful for that. Now, I'm going to Podfest. I'm going to learn some things. I'm pretty sure I'm doing something wrong, and I will tell you that I don't know which social media I'm supposed to be promoting. But I will say I am on Instagram. Decision Diaries is on Instagram. Decision Diaries has a page on Facebook. And on that page, there's a big button that says book now. And that book now button means you want to come on the podcast because you've made an interesting decision. You've got a funny story you want to tell. And so you just click that button, you pick a time, and I will call you up and you can be on Decision Diaries podcast in our before going to Podfest and learning how to properly do this kind of state of mind we're in right now. And just know, Judy, that we are international. So, hey, if you ever want to learn how to, escalate your profession to scheduling international conventions, you just let me know and we'll reach out to some of our international listeners to find out how you can take it there. I know you like to travel internationally. That's another podcast I need you on. So,
Here.
I'm going to just conclude with no regrets, no do-overs. You make decisions every day. Judy makes about, I don't know, 500 decisions before her conferences. So we wish you the best in making the best decisions. And then if not the best decisions, laughing about it afterwards.